Hi everybody, welcome to Thompson Smiley Foundation Pontrift to Cape Town tour. Today's ride has been sponsored by Nikki Thompson Art. It's a ride from Hanover all the way to Vicky West. It's a mountain bike day, all 168 kilometers on the dirt road. It's tough going out here, it's getting windy again, and but the riders are doing very well. We've just stopped for lunch, and we thank our sponsors. All our sponsors have been amazing on this trip and got us on the way. Our virtual captain for the day is Arnold Geertz. Thank you, Arnold. Guys, virtual riders, enjoy the footage that we are shooting today. Enjoy the ride as we go through this Karoo. We've seen some amazing wildlife along the way, birds, blue cranes, lots of blue cranes, which is our national bird, and have been absolutely awesome. Just enjoy it, and see you tomorrow.
Well, I'm very happy to be chatting with an old colleague of mine, Arnold Geertz, who is our captain for day 8, which is Hanover to Victoria West. Arnie, it has been far too long, but it is wonderful, wonderful to see you.
Likewise, and I can't see how you've changed at all in the 5 or 6 odd years since I've last seen you person to person. The plastic surgery is incredible. You look fantastic, I must say.
Thanks, Arnie. I was actually thinking the other day, do you remember what you were doing at about 7:20 on the 14th of May, 1998?
Good grief, no, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Yeah, that would be the moment that I joined you on the Supersport AM show, and you introduced me as a new presenter at Supersport. Do you remember that?
My word. I do remember that. And I want to tell you, funny enough, I thought about that show about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I thought to myself, gee, we had fun with that because we were pushing the envelope, weren't we? That is amazing. I'm astounded. 98, eh?
Yeah, it was cutting edge stuff back in the day. And look how far we've come.
It was. It was. Yeah. No, funny enough, what made me think of it is my book rack here is behind me is full of sports books, and one of my favorites is a tennis book. And if I lean over, I know I'm going to get out of your shot here, but it's Gordon Forbes. Can I do this? Let me show you this. So this is the book. It was called Too Soon to Panic. And I got Gordon Forbes and his partner in crime to come in and talk about that. That was how we launched the show. And the next day, we spoke to Ernie Els live from the US Open. I mean, it was ridiculous, the stuff that we did. And I don't think you see television like that today, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Arnie, I think you've been there almost from the beginning of broadcasting in South Africa. I mean, I was a bit of digging. I mean, back in 1984, you were on 5FM and Springbok Radio. Just, wind us back, maybe actually take us to before then, to the young Arnie, growing up, where you were raised, what school you went to, and just what kind of little guy were you?
Funny enough, sport never featured in my family anywhere. So I don't really know whether I was my mother's son or my dad's son. Either way, it doesn't matter. We won't go into that. But from the age of, I remember, so radio was very important in our lives in those days. I was born in 1962, and it was, radio was all there was. There was no television. But I remember being about 5 and a bit and listening to the Afrikaans. I grew up as an Afrikaans speaking boy, and listening to the Afrikaans service and hearing the newsreader at 1 o'clock in the news bulletin stumble over his words. And I remember thinking, when I'm on radio, I'm not going to make those mistakes. So it was there or thereabouts all the time. And then when television came about in 77, 78, I thought, okay, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the newspapers, and then I'm going to go to television. But what sort of prompted me into the sports thing, I can't tell you. I just fell in love with golf at the age of 11, and I started running at the age of 11. And I haven't stopped either one of them. I ran my first comrades illegally at the age of 17 with someone else's number. I was in matric, and that made me a school hero all of a sudden, from being a 0 to a school hero, and a 17-year-old boy running 88 Ks, etc., etc. And the die was just cast. Went to the army, became a signaller, which was the start, actually. So you worked on the radios. And that was really the start of my broadcasting career, if you like. I learned so much about diction and broadcasting and being concise and clear in communication and all that stuff from 80 to 81. Went to RAU in 82, got a part-time job writing sport with the Brakpan Herald. My dad's business failed because of disinvestment in 1983. And I had to go out and get a job. And it's funny, with the Brakpan Herald full-time in the first 6 months, I learned more about writing than what I did for a year and a half at varsity studying journalism. So that's where it all started. And a year later, like you said, 2nd of January 1984, started with the SABC as a writer for the news bulletins. But it was just a stepping stone to get my ugly mug on television.
Well, I have a memory of, as well, growing up and seeing you on television. I'm sure at one point there was a big moustache involved. Am I just?
There was.
Ooh.
There was. Yeah, it was. And I must say, this horrible. In fact, I'll share this with you. My dad used to say, that thing that you cultivate on your lip, that grows wild on my bum, he used to say, because it was very specs. Okay. It was what they would call an Apache moustache, Apache here and Apache there. But worse than that, in those days, we used to get long hair, you know, and in the makeup chair, the makeup girl used to take those curling tongs and curl the hair in like Prince Valiant. I looked a bit like Faf de Klerk, you know, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Arnie, you're painting quite the picture. So that's back in the Top Sport days. Did that overlap?
So I actually started on the 1st of October 1984. So I spent sort of 10 months with radio, and then, excuse me, the powers that be at Television Sports News wanted to build out the sports news bulletin, or build a sports news bulletin into the 8 o'clock news bulletin at night. And they heard of this fully bilingual Afrikaans boy at radio, and they interviewed me, and they said, well, he's got a great face for radio, but we'll try him on television. So and on the 1st of October 1984, I actually made my debut reading the sports news at the end of the news bulletin. But it's interesting. So we worked with some incredible people. I mean, you name them: Michael De Morgan, Michael Hall Green, just the list was endless. Rian Kruiwagen, Nick de Jager, incredible people. And what they didn't tell us at first was that they didn't trust us to go live on the news bulletin. So we had to package our news bulletin with the stories and then the video, and then run up to them at about 8:15. The bulletin would roll at about 22 minutes past 8. And we were in trouble several times. Guess who did most of the running? Because I could. And it was a fun time though. And again, we pioneered. I remember, I mean, again, this is remarkable. Probably early 1985, doing the first, we talked them into, okay, you see now for 3 months, we can do this. Can we go live? So they said, you can go live. And 3 months later, we said, but can we go live to some sports news bulletins? And I crossed live, they crossed to me from the sports news desk to the South African Open Tennis Championships to do an update at the Standard Bank Arena. And that was just the geraas and the upset and the spanning about this whole thing. You can't believe it. Was phenomenal. And we kept on breaking bits of ground like that all the time. It was incredible.
And Arnie, when did the transition happen to Supersport?
So again, I mean, you remember Russell McMillan, the best person I ever worked for. I would still walk through fire for the guy. But what was fantastic was in 1992, in the sort of March, April of that year, just before I went to the Olympics, Russell called me up out of the blue. Now, he was still working for Sun International and Sol Kerzner at the time. And he said, Arnie, I've always been an admirer of your work. I start with Supersport early 94. In fact, I think 1st of January, 2nd January, somewhere in 94. Give me 3 or 4 months into the year, I'm going to call you, will you come work for me? I said, gee whiz, of course, as Pinocchio got wooden eyelashes. So I said, I'm in. And he did. He called me in April that year, and we jumped in. It was, and again, that was pioneering stuff, together with Darren Scott and Tinky Pringle and Gary Bailey, and we had an absolute blast, I promise you. We organized interviews, we organized coffee, we organized links, we did everything. It was phenomenal. And then, of course, you remember the producers, Mark Williams and John Klinger, just stuff that you go, I can't believe we're trying to pull this off, and never mind that we then did in the end.
Those were the good old days. But, you know,
they were.
How far we've come. You know, I think you've also skimmed over your career a little bit, because I don't think there's anything you haven't done You know, I even seem to see there was game shows in the mix as well. I mean, you really
Yeah.
are one of the doyens of broadcasting in South Africa.
Coming from you, that's a nice compliment. Yeah, so I ended up doing things like Skattejag and Treasure Hunt. And I did lots of quiz shows and things. And one of my big, this was really phenomenal. There was, remember the Ituba Trust and the Ituba 1 million and 1 million, 1.5 million rand giveaways? I anchored those as well. And that was fantastic. We worked up to them for years and years, worked with Richard Parker, who was, again, just the most incredible producer ever. But I must also mention the early days at the SABC. I got a break, and because I was a runner, first I covered, you want to do this for a lark, you want to sit backwards on a motorbike, doing commentary on the women's race or the men's race for 5.5, 6 odd hours, looking the wrong way around. You get off and you got vertigo for 2 or 3 hours. I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then they thought, well, maybe we must give this idiot a chance and let him anchor the Comrades broadcast. And that also was one of my life's ambitions. Having run Comrades so early, I beg your pardon, was to actually anchor the broadcast, and I got that done too. Yeah, but I've done an incredible amount of things. There was, when we launched VAT in South Africa, again, they auditioned us and they paid me in fact, they paid me such a small fortune, I was able to put down a deposit on a townhouse with this money. The money was huge because it was from government. And I got the job to do interviews, and we did 800 interviews right around South Africa with a private jet that flew us everywhere in 9 days. I had VAT coming out my ears eventually. It was stuff like that, and you just go, I can't believe I did that. You know, it was fun.
That's so crazy. Ani, you keep mentioning Comrades, and I mean, you are not an average Comrades runner. I mean, you are incredibly skilled. Just run us through some of the highlights of your running career, because I know you've covered quite a few, but I mean, you've notched up quite a few Comrades as well along the way, and a few medals as well.
Yeah, well, I eventually ended up running. In fact, it's funny, I'm planning on running another one next year when I turn 60, because I think I can still win the over 60 category, God willing, and with Terps on a very tender part of me and the wind from behind, who knows, you know. But I'll tell you how it happened. Like I said, I started running when I was 11, absolutely fell in love with running, and I eventually ended up running a 2:29 marathon as my fastest marathon. But there's a reason for that. I ended up in Joburg, bumping into the Bruce Fordyce training group on the top of Jan Smuts Avenue on a Wednesday afternoon. I was doing about 140, 150, 160 Ks a week, very much what they were doing. And they said, come train with us. And I'd run a 2:33 marathon, but they made me strong and fit. Those runs with the Fordyce group were astoundingly fast, and it was mean. You had to hold onto someone's shorts with your big front teeth and just let them drag you along. I had no business being there. With my paltry 2:29, I was the third slowest guy out of the whole group. That's how talented they were, starting with Mark Plaatjes at the front with his 2:08 and Derek Daniels and Fordyce who'd run 2:17. It was incredible, and you couldn't not get faster with them. But my one great regret, and I hate to even say this because it's, you know, one of my life's philosophies is never to say what if, but I wish I'd run Comrades when I was that fast and that quick, because a 2:29 would have translated to maybe a top 20 place in its time at that time. And all the guys that we ran with were gold medalists. So I kind of, to this day, still think maybe a top 20, and on a bad day for everyone else and a good one for me, who knows. But that's my one running regret. I'd have run 11 in the meantime, and my last two at the age of 48 and 49 were 2 silvers, which I'm quite proud of. But I need to produce that same kind of form again to try and win the over 60s next year, which I'm desperate to do, because I can't wait when I do it to get on the blower to Fordyce and say, Joanna, I've done something you have.
Oh, that'll be a beautiful moment. But Ani, if we just take a look back over the last 40 odd years, what stands out for you as, you know, as some of the highlights, or maybe something that you're really proud of?
Look, the Supersport early days were incredible, and I'm proud of that. The Olympics in '94 was just phenomenal. I actually get a little teary when I think about it, because here's what happened. So Martin Locke and I are anchoring in the studio in Barcelona at the International Broadcast Center, and we're doing the opening ceremony. Trevor Quirk and Heinrich Mannitz are at the stadium, and we intermittently cross to them when there's quiet air or whatever the case may be. But now you must understand that, I beg your pardon, as much as our athletes were outclassed and out of their depth in the Olympic cauldron, so were we. Because there you are between the BBC and all the broadcasters from America and all the other ones, even the Spanish broadcasting team, our mouths hung open for the infrastructure that they had, the amount of people that they brought. And I think we went there with 17 crew, if I remember correctly. We were stretched to the limit, to the absolute limit. In any case, so there's Lockie and I, who I looked up to as a kid, and I'm broadcasting with one of my heroes. And so what happens is that we're doing this, and the next moment, it's the parade of all the athletes of the countries. And lo and behold, instead of South Africa being right at the end, as you all know, Afrique du Sud comes in like third from the front. And Lockie and I are both looking at each other like this, and we had to hold hands under the desk, not to bawl, because it was so overwhelming. It was amazing. I get teary now thinking about it.
No, that certainly sounds like a very special time. But Arnie, the reason we are here is because of this amazing cycle tour for charity. But what is your relationship with cycling?
Look, I anchored super cycling for a gazillion years, unfortunately for Andrew McLean and Owen Harney, but it was a great time. Again, we pioneered some extraordinary things together with the producer, Aubrey Coetzee. And I cycled for quite a few years, did a few biathlons and duathlons in my time. And I still try today, not out on the road though, in the gym, because I think it's so dangerous, but as an older runner, it helps with strength. So I still put in the miles, but obviously not as a cyclist. However, if you ask me about this incredible drive, it is amazing to see what the Thompson and Smiley Foundation does. And funny enough, my wife is so involved with another part of education, so early childhood development and the decent micronutrients that the brain needs to be switched on. And if I look at what the Thompson Smiley Foundation does with their access to education and jobs and basic human rights, it's incredible what they do, Leanne. So for me, just great to be a little part of it, actually.
Arnie, what is your take on the importance of education in furthering and developing a country?
It's absolutely vital. So again, very briefly, and I don't want to hijack anything, but what my wife does is provide micronutrients for early childhood development centers. And in her work, she found a professor from WITS, Professor Kasala, who's done a study on the economic impact of what malnutrition and lack of education does in this country on the economy. It is just off the charts what our lack of education does. It costs us in every single part of our lives. So effectively, it means that people are not able to take their rightful place in the community. It means that they cannot add to the fiscus. It means that they don't understand what happens in a lot of cases because it's not anything else but the lack of education. And it is dramatic what all of this does. Yeah, and I don't think sometimes we really truly understand how deep this stretches. And quite possibly to a certain degree, what we saw happening a little more than a month ago in KwaZulu-Natal and other parts of the country is directly related to this very factor.
Arnie, just on a lighter note, what do you do in your spare time? What excites you? What interests you? I know you're a great man in the kitchen.
I love cooking and I love cooking for my family, but then my whole family cooks. I mean, I was just making an omelet for myself and I got elbowed out the way by my daughter who said, I'll do it. So everyone in this family loves to cook because we love to eat, obviously. But we do have a heck of a lot of fun. We're not a family that watches television a lot. In fact, I don't own a decoder and we watch the odd bit of television. I have this thing about the fact that I don't want my kids to have square eyes and we limit their time in front of any screen for that matter. Lily and I are quite a stickler for that. So we love family time. We play lots of games. We absolutely love any game you throw at us. Then we actually only realized 2 nights ago that our domino set is not complete, and that was like a disaster. There was going to be calls to the police, the National Security Force, and maybe even the Minister of Economics. So it's that serious. We also love to get away, even if it's just for a few days every now and then. But then I must also say, I can't do without running. I battle to go without my running. My running is central to, I guess, who I am. And that's what's so nice about our cyclists who are doing this great ride. It's exactly the same kind of thing. If you ride like this, you understand what it does for you on a mental level and on a physical level. And it's a release. It's interesting. I a while ago, I say a while ago, it's a few years now, maybe 10 years, found this incredible guy who, in a nutshell, defrags your brain. So he brain maps you, and then he connects you up to his computer, and with, it's the weirdest thing, you listen to the sound that your own brain makes, believe it or not. And Rory, it's amazing, Leanne, it sounds like mumbo jumbo until you start doing this. In any case, Rory put me on the machine and he said, I have very rarely, if ever, seen anyone who is so unstressed as you are. And he said it is because of your running. And I think that's one thing that we often miss, and that's why it's so good that people exercise. You have to get out there. You have to get rid of the stress. And running and cycling is definitely two of the best gateways to possibly achieve that.
Arnie, you speak such beautiful words. I mean, it's such truth. I just wanted to ask you as well, if you maybe had a message for our two full bursary recipients, Kera and Melody.
I would say to Kera and Melody that you have a golden opportunity right there in your beautiful young hands. Very few people actually get bursaries these days. They're not 10 a penny anymore. You don't kick them out of every second bush. So to both of you, grab it with both paws. Put your teeth into it, sink your teeth into it, give it horns, and make sure that whatever you do, you give it 101%, 101% of the time. Because unfortunately, I look back at my education, as I've told you the story where my money dried up. And to this day, I'm a little sorry that I don't have a piece of paper that says journalism degree BA. Not that it would have in the long run made a huge difference, because I achieved it with lots of hard graft. But if you've got the gateway, if you've got the opportunity to get a great education and you've got a bursary to do it with, don't stop for a second. Don't hold back, because the last thing you want to do is what Uncle Arnold is sitting back here doing, going, what if? That's one of the big things you never want to be able to say. If you can live your life and never at the end go, I wonder what if, you've lived a full life.
Such true words. Arnie, it has been a delight chatting to you and seeing your mug again.
Likewise. It's been fun.
Best, Arnie. Yeah, love to the family, hey?
Thank you, and your side too.
It's all right.
Leave me to the brightest of my days. I've been so lucky, boy. shade of doubt hanging around. Got old. 'Cause darling, there is nothing right when all you seem to do is lie. Those days are gone. I'm walking tall while you're alone. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things you took from me, I know that I am so much better, better. When I look at what I've done now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better. And baby, you don't belong. Your love was cold, heart made of stone. But I'm just fine, I'm gonna shine. I'm alright, alright, alright. I'm celebrating my liberation. I'm moving strong, I'm moving on. I'm alright, alright, alright. Might be shaken but not stirred. Just a lesson that I've learned. And so it goes. Tables turn and you're on your own. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things you took from me, I know that I am so much better, better. When I look at what I've done now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better. And baby, you don't belong. When I look at what I've done now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better. And baby, you don't belong.
Just last week you called me. The way you're talking's driving me insane. Hello. Just last week you called me. The way you're talking's driving me insane. Hello. Even if we're hanging by a thread, and the words you said is spinning in my head, I just wanna pull you closer in this bed. Take me back into your arms, and I'll never let you down. Let you down, and I'll never let you down. Let you take me back into your arms, and I'll never let you down. Let you. Just last week you called me. The way you're talking's driving me insane. Hello. Just last week you called me. The way you're talking's driving me insane. Hello. Even if we're hanging by a thread, and the words you said is spinning in my head, I just wanna pull you closer in this bed, Take me back into your arms, and I'll never let you down. Let you down, and I'll never let you down. Let you take me back into
You think you know me? Say I'm as cold-hearted as they come. You think I'm slowly cutting my ties with you, that I'm done. Here's what you don't know. Feelings, they grow slow. I've just been caring for mine. Now I can feel it. Now I believe it. Baby, tonight is the night. I'm
I'm here with Nolan. Nolan, you've been with the tour for 4 days now. How are you finding it so far? What's your highlight been?
Definitely the team spirit. You know, we've covered some serious kilometers the past few days. I think the open stretches in the Free State really hurt some guys out there, but we've kept it nicely together, and it's going good so far. Halfway through today now, and we made up some good time on the mountain bike, and I think everybody's settling into the routine quite nicely.
Brilliant. And obviously you're a cyclist with quite a lot of experience. What do you think of these guys? How are they going? Are they working well?
Definitely. I think the team spirit, I mean, like the camaraderie amongst everybody has been really great. You know, it reminds me of the team and in races everybody's got this small little role. We wait for each other. Some guys get really excited when the wind blows, and there's some oaks lifting the pace, but then we calm down, and we keep it quite tight, and it's been really great to see that everybody's pulling through each day after these long days, and the spirits is quite high, which I'm really impressed with. And you know, it's more the bum that's taking punishment than the legs. So it's nice to see that everybody's still looking good.
Brilliant. And obviously we have the virtual ride going on after this. Have you got any words for the guys at home on the trainers?
Yes, definitely. I think support the virtual ride. Definitely the real thing is obviously the best, but it's really cool to follow us and see the landscape. You know, I think just to be part of the whole initiative is good, and everybody should get on, you know, and join the cause.
Brilliant. Thanks.